same name, and yeah, let's just go ahead and do this anyway. Good morning to you. Good Thursday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Pirates. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into football and or hockey, I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Penguins in the same place that you found this. Randal Grichuk is the latest name. He's come up before in other reports, but when someone as reputable as Mark Feinsand, who's now with MLB.com, previously with the San Francisco Chronicle, assembles a report connecting the Pirates directly to Grichuk and saying that they have legitimate interest in this player, well, you've got something that's at least worth discussing in mid-January. Grichuk's 33 years old. He's not going to excite anybody. He's a guy who's always been kind of dependable, productive, not necessarily powerful, and he's not been super durable either, and he is a corner outfielder. This past season with the Diamondbacks, he appeared in 106 games. He slashed .291, .348, .528. That's an .875 OPS that'd be pretty good within the 2024 Pittsburgh lineup. 12 home runs, 20 doubles, 46 RBIs. He only had 254 at-bats, and I think that's probably the most significant stat here. He's a guy who's hit 30 before, meaning home runs. And he's shown, I don't mean to knock his power as if it doesn't exist. I mean to knock it as in you're not bringing in some super pop guy. You know, you'd be bringing in somebody who, well, let's think about this for a second. He's right-handed. He's a right fielder. He's got numbers offensively that, especially with Andy Haynes gone, you can count on. He doesn't have to take the obligatory Haynes plunge. So if he's right-handed, you probably already went here with me on this, right? Yeah. Why not, presuming spring training would go okay, give Jack Suwinski one last try? There is not an organization in baseball that would not give Jack another try. And remember, it's not about what me and you think. I love the kid, for the record. I've said that before. I'll say it into eternity, independent of his baseball. But I can see where the general public around here would be like, really? How many times are we going to do this? He keeps coming up. He does well for about a week or two. You wonder why he was ever even down there. And then he just falls off to like being the worst hitter in all of baseball for a month or two. And then he picks up on some whispers. This is Jack now, that maybe he's in trouble. Maybe he's going down. And believe me, I can attest to this personally. And then what do you know? He just starts swinging a harder bat, and he doesn't have a lazy bone in his body. It's not about taking it easy or getting complacent. Just something clicks. I'm not adverse to this thing that I'm setting up here, while acknowledging that all I'm doing is setting up a hypothetical, since the Pirates don't give you real news to report on. If it's not Grichuk, if it's somebody else who comes in and sets up a platoon, but one where you don't have to hang by your fingernails to the edge of a cliff counting on Jack, maybe there's something to be said there. Because if you get whoever the names are, and regardless of how often they play or whatever their titles might be, or if you call them platoon, don't call them platoon. By the way, that just seems to be a negative term anymore in baseball. It didn't used to be. But now when you ask a manager, even in the most obvious platoon situation that is ongoing and in front of everybody's faces, they will say, I wouldn't really call it a platoon. Why? It's a platoon. If you're using a righty and a lefty and you're using them for righty-lefty purposes, that's a platoon. If you did that, again, whether it's Grichuk or anybody else, if you get X amount of production and X number of home runs, and X equals a number that makes your lineup stronger, that makes your lineup come up with a corner outfield production base that's at least average or maybe even above average, then you've gotten better as a baseball team. It's always preferable to have someone like Brian Reynolds, who you can put down an ink pen as your left fielder and say, hey, you know you're going to get this, this, and this out of him. You know you're going to get 285, 25 home runs, 85 RBIs, whatever it happens to be. You know you're going to get that out of B-Ray. You don't really know that about any other position on the diamond, so you got to start coming up or even cobbling together things that are certainties. Now, I say all that, and I will also say that there were players out there who could have done that. There's players that you could have put into right field, and it wouldn't necessarily be Reynolds level production, but it would have been something in that territory. All you had to do was pay for them. When we come back, J1Q.
It's Gun Storage Check Week. Help prevent unwanted access to your firearms. No one wants their unsecured gun to be used in an accident, a suicide, or a crime. Use lockboxes, safes, and locks to secure your firearms. Learn more at gunstoragechek.org. That's gunstoragechek.org. Brought to you by NSSF, the Firearm Industry Trade Association.
Abandon ship, Bob. Sell the team. Are you a Pirates fan who is angry or apathetic about our perennial losing baseball team? Do you feel helpless because you don't know how to make a difference? Well, good news. We have something you can do about it. Join our Sell the Team movement. We're a group of passionate fans voicing our frustration and demanding change through billboard campaigns, press outreach, protests, and involvement at local city government meetings. Go to ourteamnothis.com to get involved.
Today's J1Q comes from Jake. This is a little bit layered. I'm probably not going to do a great job of answering it in the detail that it deserves, but I'm going to give it a shot anyway. Jake says, hey, DK, I'm looking at the Marlins and the A's, and we see teams establishing minimum payrolls based on revenue sharing. I imagine other teams face this, but we don't hear about it. Doesn't this seem like a salary floor? It's oversimplified, I realize, but are the Pirates under something like that? If this thing that you're describing, Jake, exists in some firm form, then every team would have to abide by it. There wouldn't be any special exemption for the A's just because, I don't know, they're going to be in Sacramento, or the Marlins because they're the Marlins. It would be something that applies to all 30. As for this minimum payroll thing, technically, it doesn't exist. There's no such thing as a minimum payroll in Major League Baseball. There should be. I've been saying that for a long time, but that's why there should be a salary cap system. That's why every time I say salary cap and somebody says, oh, so ought to be a salary floor, they're not aware that every salary cap system comes with a floor. There's no such thing as a cap system without a floor. And for that matter, there's no such thing as a cap system without a tight range, or a fairly and reasonably tight range between the ceiling and the floor, as in like $20 million. Seriously, that's it. And as a result, everyone essentially is required to spend into a range, and there's more money from more teams for more players. Scott Boras and other agents, of course, don't care about that, but especially Boras, who's the most influential agent, because all that concerns them is that their biggest, most spectacular, most famous clients get absolute maximum dollar. And they don't need 30 bidders for that. They just need 2 or 3. They get their 2 or 3, those guys get their money. Doesn't matter to any of them if they all end up at Dodger Stadium. It just doesn't. But to what you're asking about, yeah, there are certain things you have to do, and there's categories that go in both directions. And by that I mean revenue and payroll, where if you're at certain levels, it affects the size of the revenue sharing check that comes your way. Now, without boring everybody to tears here, there's a lot of misconceptions about what the revenue sharing check is. You get one monstrous check at the end of the year, and that check includes all of the various shared monies, meaning the amount that everybody gets. Yankees and Dodgers get it too, from, say, network television deals, advanced media, merchandise. All of that is shared. I don't know how many people know this or not, but it's probably worth bringing up every now and then. All of that is shared, 1/30. If you buy a Shohei Ohtani jersey in Los Angeles, 1/30 of that goes to the Pirates. If you contribute to the TV ratings, or if you buy some sort of online subscription to watch, just Major League Baseball games, 1/30 of that goes to the Pirates. It also goes to everybody else. The only separators in this, the actual revenue sharing check, as it's known in the industry, comes from this big pot that all teams contribute to, but only some teams draw from. It's a totally separate thing from those other things I just mentioned, the TV and so forth. So the actual revenue sharing check comes out to around $30 million for a team like the Pirates. So occasionally you'll hear something that says, the Pirates get this check for $100 million. Well, they do, but it's most of it is stuff that everybody's getting. All right. So again, to swing back to your question, what the A's and the Marlins are getting, or putting themselves into position to do, is to maximize their revenue sharing check. If they're over a certain threshold, they get this amount. I'm going to be honest with you. I have no earthly idea if that specific figure applies to the Pirates, because I don't know how that is relative to what their local revenues are and that sort of thing. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Pirates. We'll do another one of these tomorrow.